one side starts winning and one side starts losing, will there be a position whereby one of the sides will feel they need to use their nuclear warhead?
The attack on a sovereign nuclear power by another sovereign nuclear power with a pretext that you were part of a terrorist attack that killed 26 people of my country.
There should have been some restraint and there should have been some time lag between. They could have, jumped the gun.
The largest population or the largest democracy, as India claims, and the fifth largest population, which is Pakistan, and then sixth and seventh nuclear powers in the world.
If there's one thing I've learned from ex-Twitter, social media, is the burning resentment of Western interference in the Middle East and Pakistan and India.
All the top leaders, the governments, they should just come out and they should condemn terrorism in the loudest, voices possible.
I hope it, after Pakistani response, it does not escalate any further and the balance of power between India and Pakistan restores. A very warm welcome. I am SohailQureshi from our London studios, and I am here with my two guests to discuss our emerging situation between Pakistan and India, the two nuclear powers, and it's a nuclear showdown in offing again. India, unfortunately, taking a pretext of Pahalgam terrorist attack on its civilians, accused Pakistan, and 2 days ago has attacked the mainland Pakistan on at least 5 different locations with the 30-odd missiles. It has killed a number of innocent civilians, numbered at 37 killed and 54 injured. It is an unprovoked act of war against the sovereignty and integrity of Pakistan, which Pakistan has assured to its citizen and all the patriotic Pakistanis all over the world that the revenge will come and Pakistan will retaliate. Where will this escalation ladder stop? Because both countries are nuclear power and they are determined to perhaps escalate it to the next level. We, as a patriotic Pakistani nationals, we are worried about what's going to happen. But one thing is certain, but what we hear from the Pakistani government and Pakistani army, that the attack on India will be imminent, whether there is a peace after that or the total destruction. So to discuss all of these matters, I have my two very distinguished guests, David Atherton, who is a British journalist, analyst, and also a very regular guest on our TV channel. And today we also have an Indian journalist, Vimal Joshi, who is currently in London. And we will ask them that why did India unprovokedly attack Pakistan and what will happen if Pakistan retaliates. Without any further ado, I start with David. David, thank you very much. And Vimal, thank you very much for coming. We start with David. David, you are quite a well-informed journalist, and you must be looking at this situation between India and Pakistan. I just wanted to take your views.
The word is aghast at the moment. The word, it's really, this could escalate to the most appalling degree. If one side starts winning and one side starts losing, will there be a position whereby one of the sides will feel they need to use their nuclear warheads? Now, the long term, the short term and long term effect of that could be catastrophic. I have to say, you may know more than me on this one, what you said to me in the green room, but I think Pakistan's response has been quite statesmanlike. They were quite strong, air attacks from Israel, and the fact is, it seems to be so far, restrained. It seems to me that kudos to Pakistan. I think also as well. The other thing, of course, you got the geopolitical situation whereby China supports Pakistan, and then you have the United States supporting India, and in Britain outside the Pakistani embassy, you have this bizarre thing of there were Indian and Israeli flags at the Pakistani embassy, against the sort of the Pakistani people who were standing outside there. But one question I wanted to ask you, if I could, to what degree are the Islamist terrorists in Jammu Kashmir, specifically the Jammu area, how much support do they get from the Pakistan government? Is it direct or indirect, or is it fairly nebulous?
Well, we'll analyze that, but
Yeah.
but first, the attack on a sovereign nuclear power by another sovereign nuclear power, with the pretext that you were part of a terrorist attack that killed 26 people of my country. How do you look at that kind of very audacious attack on the mainland of another country?
Yeah. Well, I think it goes back. I think it goes back to my original question. It seems to me, on the face of it, theoretically, that India is punishing the government for terrorists that Pakistan cannot possibly control.
Well, I think there is it's quite a loaded answer or question from you, but that is it, that with the pretext that actually there is a terrorist organization in Pakistan, and the Pakistani government is in cahoots with that, and I think that's a very big statement.
Yeah,
and I think
hence I asked it as a question rather than a statement. Yeah,
sure. We'll come to that.
Sure.
Pakistan has always denied it.
Yeah.
That they don't have any hand in any terrorist activities. There are terrorists everywhere. There are terrorists in British Island. How many terrorists we have found here?
Sure.
In America, 9/11,
Yeah.
9/11, the biggest country in the world, the most sophisticated. They couldn't even, there were terrorists there.
Sure.
So that is a different ball game. But then to associate a state sponsor, that is a very big thing. But the point that we discussed was that if without any investigation, without giving opportunity to anyone and become a judge and jury and executioner, that this is what it is, and that is it is that mindset that we are talking about.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about two states like Nepal and Bhutan, which doesn't have any big army or nuclear power. And that is the point that I wanted to.
Well, I do take your point on that one, but I assume this sort of Islamist terrorism has been going on for years, if not decades. And surely India, within certain parameters, just gets fed up and turning the other cheek, and not being able to do anything directly about it. I believe India claims that they were actually going for military targets in Pakistan, Kashmir, but there does seem maybe civilians that are in the way. It's obviously a tragedy, but I tend to agree with you that India has overreacted. Truth be known, looking at things objectively. But I can entirely understand India's frustration. Those tourists were genuinely innocent. They were just enjoying the vistas and the views and the countryside. They were not combatants, but by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, no, thank you. Vimal, you've been very patiently listening to our conversation, and I know you're a very peace-loving human being, and you are you write for an economic platform in India. What do you think of this from the Indian point of view, and especially the far-right Indian rhetorics of BJP and their followers?
There are two ways to look at it. One is what is being done, and one is what should be done. So what is being done is to sort of please the electorate. So Indian government is appealing to its own electorate, the people who have apparently, thanks to social media, have become cheerleaders for this kind of aggression against the neighboring country. And the similar side could be, there in Pakistan. So that is apparently happening in the wake of the untoward terror attack, which he very rightly mentioned. The tourists were innocent people and they were just enjoying the time. And Kashmir, which has become peaceful after a long hiatus of violence and conflict. So this was quite a tragedy, and what has happened in Kashmir, obviously, we have gone back to that time when both the countries used to have skirmishes across the border, and so on and so forth. So that's very unfortunate. But what is happening is both the governments apparently they are appealing to to their own electorate, the people, because both are democratically elected governments. So obviously they want to do something which can help them get re-elected.
But don't you think that
They should have exercised restraint. What happened was unfortunate. I mean, obviously, it's a gray area. One side, India, the allegation of India is that it's a state-sponsored attack, whereas Pakistan denied it. I mean, obviously, very rightly you mentioned there should have been some investigation. They should have reached out to Pakistan authorities for the dossier. I mean, there could have been some diplomacy. And US government has also intervened. There has been statement from the United Nations Secretary General. So other countries have also offered to mediate between the two nations. So there should have been some restraint, and there should have been some time lag between. They could have jumped the gun.
Yeah. No, very good. I think I'm glad that you said so. Yes, allegation is one thing, but actually to prove it, and we're not talking about fights between two neighbors, the two ordinary people. We're talking about
nuclear countries.
The largest population or the largest democracy, as India claims, and the fifth largest population, which is Pakistan, and then sixth and seventh nuclear powers in the world. So this is not a joke that you can just simply say that this has happened, and then Pakistan has repeatedly asked and invited India and the international community that they are very happy to take part in any investigation that either India initiates or with the international community. Sure. There's no denying that the terrorism is an issue of the world. It's not only about Pakistan or Afghanistan or some countries. This is also true that a lot of these terrorism that is happening is with the people in the Muslim countries, and but then that is a very surface thinking. When you deeply think about it, then you understand that there is a reason for that terrorism. The occupation of the foreign powers. That is what Kashmiris feel, because there are at least close to 1 million men Indian army in Kashmir for about 7 or 8 million. So pretty much one soldier for every 7, 8. So there's a reason. So there is a, and these are the things, the separatist movement, they must be, just like at one time in Ireland, there was an English army or British army. But these are the things that must be dealt with in a very proper manner rather than jumping the gun. So coming back to David, part of the answer that I've given to your question, there are two very major and big issues in the Muslim world.
Yeah.
One is Kashmir, and the other is Palestine.
Yeah, sure.
Pretty much majority of these, so to say, terrorist activities or freedom fighting is because of these issues.
Yeah.
But there is a similarity. Both of these issues are created none other than your British Empire, and I suppose that you should take some.
Always has to be me, you know.
Yeah.
One of the questions I wanted to ask you two guys: do you think that in 1947 was the right thing to do? Was leave the British Empire and go your separate ways? With the separation between Pakistan and India. Was it the right thing to do?
I think a lot has been said, and I think that will deviate us from probably that's a discussion for another day. But the point I was making, when there is a grievances of people in any society, they will stand up for their rights. When those rights are not listened to, people will resort to violence. Imagine if if Germans would have come and taken over England or Britain, what would you do? Remember in the Second World War, when Germans have taken over France, so what did French do? The French did resistance.
Well, we did,
And that is simple. And that is very simple. And I don't understand why people are unable to. But issue is even deeper now. The issue is this, that why did India feel the need to go to this level without going through a process?
Indeed, yeah.
And we see India is quite alone.
Yeah.
Even American government, J.D. Vance has yesterday said that they are not bothered what happened there. And obviously it's a double-edged sword, so we don't know what happened behind the doors. But that shows that the rest of the world, they're not interested in taking sides with both countries, or for that matter, the statement made by India. And I think that is a very telling narrative.
Well, indeed. So what we're looking at here is a reasonably isolated India at the moment.
Yes.
They're isolated. I must admit, I don't, not that I take any notice of Britain's Foreign Secretary's David Lammy's opinion much, or what he has to say. I don't take much of that, but the British government itself has been very, very quiet, and I've seen no chatter elsewhere. On the news airwaves that everyone's getting in behind India. Again, I'm trying to be objective here rather than take sides.
Yes.
Has the sort of the, if you like, the Hindu nationalism of Modi, has it gone too far?
Yeah, well, that's how it looks like. We need to see where there's a proof is in the pudding.
Yeah.
We just simply see the rhetoric, the anger, the furore, or the angst that is coming up there, and it is a pity that so many innocent lives they perish, whether that was in India or Pakistan, whether they were civilians or army men, because at the end of the day, they are somebody's sons, they're somebody's fathers and brothers and mothers and children and all that, and that is the sad part.
Yeah, but I can feel India's frustration. Frustration. Let's face it. The Kashmir problem goes back to 1947, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. But the statehood is a very complex matter. You can't make decisions of going to a war on these small little things because that's very impulsive. They're very juvenile.
Yeah.
That small thing, you came up and gave me a slap and I'm going to take my gun and shoot you.
Sure.
Only. And I think that India is a far big country than Pakistan economically, militarily, and all that. But one thing they forget, the soul of Pakistanis is scorched with their hard belief in the patriotism and their belief in Allah, and they will respond, and they will respond very tellingly, as the DGISPR has said in a press conference 2 days ago, that we don't have to do anything to tell the world that we are attacking India or not. When we will attack, the world will know. And I think that is a very, very serious part, because the escalation ladder dominance theory that we talk about, it has become imbalanced now. And unless or until Pakistan Army and Pakistan gives a very telling response, it will not be good for Pakistan and for that matter for India, because that means it will carry on. It's not that it's going to be the last time, unless or until a proportionate, timely, and immediate response is given. And that will take us to another level of cycle of violence. The question to you, Vimal, is that we have noticed a lot of videos by the anti-Modi, anti-BJP politicians who have been calling it false flag operation, who have been asking for restraints, and who are asking exactly what David said, and partially that you alluded to, that it is for the local audience, that every time there are elections or Modi's government is in some kind of a jeopardy, right now it's a coalition government, something on this border, they do something to show the bravado and then win the elections. So what would you say about that?
Well, I wouldn't say that because the general elections are not around the corner. So
there's some regional elections going on.
But obviously, such international issues, they do not necessarily have such a direct impact on the regional elections, because the state issues are the ones which matter. For example, road, power, electricity, and not the international issues, not necessarily the India-Pakistan issue. Election obviously is not a reason, but if we look at the recent history, what happened in 2019 after Pulwama attack. So India at that time responded by carrying out strikes at I guess Balakot. So something similar happened this time, which again is a response to strike a terror hideout. So there is some sort of miscommunication and fake news going on from both the sides, and particularly thanks to social media, it has been amplified multifold. So what exactly is the truth? I mean, that needs to be seen. I mean, if we only look at the statements what officials are making, or what both sides are saying, because the facts presented by both sides are quite different. For example, this strike, Indian government claims that there have been, I think, 16 people who died, and they were mostly the terrorists and not the civilians. I mean, they did not intend to, kill the civilians. So this so-called it is an attack, but this is not a war, so to speak, because no attack has been carried out in a civilian area. So if we look at it from
But it was the civilian, the mosques were destroyed, and there are 37 funerals.
So
in
that's
Pakistan,
exactly what I was referring to. So that's the Pakistan's version. I was checking the news at the Guardian, the CNN, and one more international portal. So they had presented the claims of both the government. So the disparity is quite huge. So I think one side says 16 people died, only terrorists, and the other side says 36 people died, including civilians, and attack on mosque. So now so this thing is being amplified. So whatever noise and chatter is there on the social media, it's very it's not appropriate to read between the lines.
The issues about Indian involvement in the terrorism in Pakistan, they've been there for a very long time. And as you know, a few years ago, an Indian spy, a sitting colonel, was arrested, caught pretty much red-handed in Balochistan, one of the provinces where there is a violent separatist movement, which is very well supported by India. You probably might have heard also, just a few weeks ago, the entire train was hijacked by the terrorists, which only after the military intervention it was rescued, and dozens of people got killed in that operation. Now, everybody in Pakistan was saying Indians are behind it, and maybe there were some evidence. Now, the question is this: on that basis, how would India feel that Pakistan start throwing missiles and send 80 aeroplanes without giving an opportunity? So you can't have a double standard. You cannot treat Pakistan like a Nepal and Bhutan.
I cannot speak on behalf of the Indian government.
Yeah.
I'm just speaking.
But I'm just saying. It's just a very simple. Both countries are saying without any proof,
yes,
or proof that's verifiable by a third party, because it's a tit for tat. So if India is saying that there's a terrorism, 30 people unfortunately got killed, civilians, but Pakistan is saying that exactly the same happened 6 weeks ago.
Well, the first casualty of war is the truth, isn't it?
Yeah. No, that's true. But here we are talking about the principles.
Yeah.
We're talking about the processes. You cannot really implicate the entire government of 250 million people, which is vetted by the United Nations, which has a great relationship with everyone. And why did terrorism start? And that is slightly deviating from our point, was this: until the first Afghan war between USSR and invasion to Afghanistan, there was no terrorism in Pakistan. Pakistani streets were flooded by tourism from all over the world, and in 70s or even in 80s. But that is the time with America and the West and the UK. They supported over 100,000 Muslims from all over the world, funded by America and Saudi Arabia, were actually brought to Pakistan in the northern areas close to Afghanistan, and they were trained, army training. They were given, and I've been to those the camps. And when the Afghan war finished, the America and the West, they just washed their hands
Yeah.
and they left everything, and that led to. And there are actually movies. There's a very nice movie, Charlie Wilson's War, about it. And everybody knows this. So it is very important to understand that once terrorism comes in, it is very difficult to eradicate. Just
Yeah,
like
it is.
in the UK.
It's probably getting worse at the moment. as we
Yeah,
speak,
yeah.
No, I must say, if there's one thing I've learned from ex-Twitter, social media, is the burning resentment of Western interference in the Middle East and Pakistan and India and what have we. That's why it's a good point. Iraq, for example, I think Britain and America. Never accused me of sounding a liberal, but I'll take me out and shoot me. But Britain and America, choose your figure. In Iraq was from 2003 were responsible for 300,000, maybe even 1 million deaths in Iraq.
The issue is, I'm bringing back to the topic we are discussing.
Yeah.
The issue is there's that Pakistani response, which definitely will come.
Yeah.
And people who know that area, who know the psyche of Pakistan and the brave Pakistani army, they know that response will come. It will be a telling response.
Sure.
So far, even in the 2019 skirmishes, whatever Pakistan army said, it was exactly like that.
Yeah.
That we have downed 2 of Indian aeroplanes. We have captured their pilot. India attacked in 5 places in Pakistan, and Pakistan retorted within 48 hours on 7 areas of India. So there was a tit for tat. So the balance of power, or the escalation ladder, was kind of equal, and then both countries knew.
I think it's been a battle of the drones as well, hasn't there?
Yeah, but the issue is this, which I want our next point in discussion will be, that these are the nuclear power.
Yeah, indeed.
When there is an existential threat to Pakistan with nowhere else to go, so what are they going to do? And that is what the world needs to understand. That is what India needs to understand, because they have enough arsenal, both of them, to destroy both countries several times.
Do you know how big their arsenals are?
Yeah. So they had about close to 170, 180. The largest arsenal, nuclear arsenal, have
basically
Russia. Then it's America.
Okay, so they basically glass each other's countries over.
Yeah. But these days the strength of the bombs are at least 100 times more than what Hiroshima and Nagasaki were. And that means that all you need to do is just 5 bombs in the 5 major cities, and within 50-mile radius is gone for another 100 and 200 years, and that's the end of it. And not only that, the nuclear plume that will come up out of it will affect the entire world.
Climate as well.
So this is quite a bamboozling point, Vimal, that and it shows probably a reckless mindset for India as an aggressor to go to this level. And do you think the sane minds in India, and I've seen a number of videos of politicians, mostly anti-Modi, and this is not what they were expecting. They thought that there might be some attack in Pakistani-held Kashmir, or just on a small scale rather than mainstream. So what do you think of that?
No, as far as the sentiment of Indian people is concerned, they all are supporting the stand of the Indian government, whether cutting across the party line. So be it opposition, be it actors and cricketers. So I've seen the social media posts by celebrities, everyone, including the senior most opposition leaders. So they have been supporting. And they're supposed to, because when it comes to the nation, obviously everybody stands behind the Prime Minister. So he's not the Prime Minister of one party, he's the Prime Minister of the whole nation. So as far as the sentiment is concerned, obviously nobody will side with the rival nation, regardless of the circumstances. And
it is the hysteria, that's what I'm saying. It
yes.
is the hysteria that is created in both, and that is what we are trying to decide.
Very rightly you said, the larger question here is that both the nations, and in fact other nations also, are against terrorism. Neither India nor Pakistan would explicitly say that they are supporting terrorism. So India is the recent victim of terrorism, and Pakistan has been the victim of terrorism. There have been, I think, assassination attempts at former General Pervez Musharraf and
Prime
various other
Minister,
leaders.
Benazir Bhutto was martyred.
Yes. So
Before
terrorism,
that, yeah, 2006.
terrorism knows no boundaries. All these countries, they have been victims of terrorism. So the larger question is that all the top leaders, the governments, they should just come out and they should condemn terrorism in the loudest, voices possible. So, when India decided to attack one terror camp of Pakistan, the attack was against terrorism. No military officer would obviously deliberately attack one individual or one civilian or a set of civilians or a mosque for that matter. So it's an attack against terrorism. So the larger question is whether terrorism should be condemned. The answer obviously is resoundingly yes. So I think that's the larger question.
Yes, that is, of course, it's a philosophical question, and there can be only one answer. Yes, that is not the issue. The issue is here that our nuclear power taking such a drastic action within 2 or so weeks under their own rhetorics or the public pressure to attack another nuclear power which they know will respond. And that mindset, that thinking process of that decision making, why did India choose that? So would they, and I'm still confused, because only if they think that Pakistan is like Nepal or Bhutan and will not answer. Pakistan will definitely answer, as we know, and they have said it. What happens next? Because what is the exit strategy of this kind of cul-de-sac?
No, this should end as soon as possible. The sooner, the better. However, we all have been, fed with different pieces of information. Mm-hmm. All right. So what you may have, the information you may have accessed may be different from the information that I've accessed. So I'm saying on the basis of what I have read and seen, which obviously is different from the version that you have read and seen. So in the era of social media, there is a very thin line between truth and fiction. So my version is that the attack has happened on the terror camps. It should have happened the way it happened in Balakot when the Indian government wanted to demolish the camps where terrorists are trained, so that no such future terror act can take place. So obviously that should have happened. Any attack against civilian, neither it should have happened in Pahalgam, nor it should have happened on Pakistan soil for that matter. So obviously it should be condemned in the...
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you very much. We just take a short break, and then and I'm glad that we are having a very good and civil discussion on this matter. Yes. Very constructive. So we'll take a short break and then we'll come back. Welcome back after the break, and thank you very much for watching our show. I have David Atherton, British journalist, commentator and analyst in our studio, and Vimal Joshi, who is Indian journalist currently in London, and we are listening to him and trying to decipher what is happening in this current nuclear war power of the two top nations in Asia vying for probably supremacy or maybe mutually assured destruction. And we just want to see if there's anything that can save and solve this mystery. Right. So, David, question to you would be, because you have been dealing with all of these issues through your commentary and analysis, will or should Pakistan respond or not respond, given that their sovereignty has been severely damaged?
Well, I have to say, instinctively, I thought I would say instinctively. I thought I'd be siding with India on the course, because we've had enough of Islamic terrorism in Britain. So I thought instinctively I might be going with India, but maybe not. And I think Pakistan should not respond, physically or with army and forces and what have you. They should take the win and say, look, we got the high moral ground here, and you'll move India, and that's what personally what I think Pakistan should do.
But the thing is this, that the relationship with these kind of powers is not that simple. There has to the balances power, which has been, despite the mismatch of the army and economic strengths, that has been more or less balanced, which actually made sure that there is a status quo there.
Yeah.
And now this one is damaged. This entire balance is damaged. And without that, I don't think that there is going to the restoration of that balance, which would have ensured peace.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. So what you're saying is India is to blame for escalating the matters in Jammu, and quite simply, Pakistan should have the right to respond accordingly to what India's done.
Article 51 of United Nations Charter clearly says that if anyone attacks your integrity and sovereignty, you have the right to proportionately and immediately, or the word is the time of their own choosing, you can do that.
Okay.
It is possible that sometimes some nations show extraordinary restraint, but that doesn't look like to be an option for Pakistan. What the Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has just said.
Let me ask you a controversial question, if I may. So, after the 7th of October in Palestine, Israel, do you think the Israelis had the right to retaliate against the Hamas?
Okay, well, that's again a different topic, but I will say this, that 7th October did not start in a vacuum. It happened because there was a 70 years occupation of a land. There was the United Nations human rights, international human rights, and even Israeli own human rights organization. They were talking about huge number of human rights violation, and that is it. Yes, every country has a right to respond, but the proportionality is very, very important. If we go in that route, then what Germans did under Nazis' rule, Hitler was right, because they also had a reason. They also thought that Jews are against them, and then they would also have a right to respond.
But hasn't the Kashmir conflict itself began coincidentally around 1947? I think Israel was formed in 1948, and Kashmir obviously the partition in 1947. There's been 70 years of strife, hasn't there? There were instances 1965, and I think Pakistan became a nuclear power in 1998, and India 1974, if my memory serves me right.
98, both of them were right.
Yeah.
So the issue, I mean, there is a history there.
Yeah.
That is undoubtedly an issue, but what we are trying to find out something here is that whether this level of hostility and naked aggression by India was in India's own benefit or the world peace, or whether it is going to bring sanity in the region or is going to escalate the war. And that is the key question. Whether whatever you do in your life, whether that improves things or not, you have to decide about it. And that is the difference between a good decision or a bad decision.
Well, indeed, yeah. Well, I just really hope Pakistan show restraint. From what I've seen so far, it's been particularly statesmanlike. As I said previously, I think you guys can take the win because you've got the high moral ground at the moment. But I've got a sneaking suspicion it's not going to end up like that. Certainly, as far as I'm concerned, there should be a genuine, honest, open inquiry done into events leading up to when the tourists were killed, and the bombing of the people over in Kashmir and the Punjab as well. Also, if they have a sort of a genuine inquiry, it at least gives a bit of time for people to calm down and cool down, and a deep intake of breath. Let's face it again tomorrow morning sort of attitude.
Okay. Thank you. The same question to you, Vimal, that given that sovereignty of a country under a false pretext or pretense, or whether a very small shred of evidence, whether Pakistan should respond, and if it responds, what will happen?
I'm a very wrong person to answer that question. I'm an Indian national, so obviously I wouldn't be suggesting or alluding to any rival nation coming up with the idea of attacking the country I'm a part of. So I don't think I'm a right person to answer that question.
Sure. So the point we're making is this, that Pakistan it definitely has to attack what we're here, because they are cornered. They don't have any other choice. So if Pakistanis, they don't attack, that means they have actually accepted the bullying tactics of, so to say, a bigger power. And that connotation itself is not good for Pakistan, its public, but also the world order. So that means any big country or superior country can attack any other country without showing any proof or whatever, very disproportionate response, not thinking of the consequences of that, and it will not be good for India. And that is the point that we are trying to make.
Yeah, but briefly, is escalation justified or wanted or needed?
Sometime you have to do it. Again, giving the analogy of Israel-Palestine, you have to do it.
Okay.
You
Genuine
can't.
question that was.
It is, you have to do it. So nobody can give you a slap and then you just take the slap and keep quiet. And and a brave and strong military Pakistan has. Yes, Vimal.
Okay, so deviating slightly from this, while looking at the entire issue, to put this in perspective, as he asked, whether this is justified or not. I want to shed light on the fact that it has had, massive impact on the economy. Okay. Now IPL, the largest, cricket league in the world, so it has been postponed because of this conflict. Indian markets, Pakistan markets, they have, lost a massive amount of value in, I think, 1 day or 2 days. So obviously, it is not in any country's interest to carry on this conflict. Even when India carried out this attack, so it has had a massive economic impact on India as well. So today itself, Indian markets, I think, fell by over 1%, which is quite huge.
Yeah.
So similarly, I mean, there has a huge, massive economic impact. So obviously, it's not in any country's interest, whether even when India does it. So it's not that India is benefiting. I mean, it may be a good PR exercise that they have done something, and in a way they have settled the scores.
Well, I believe that Pakistan is the aggrieved party, and it was a very high-handedness of Indian government that within 2 weeks of an attack, which we really feel sad for the families of the people innocent who got killed, and bringing the world to this level. And what I know about Pakistan and our brave Pakistani army, there will be a response, and there must be a response, telling and befitting the Pakistani army of a status of a nuclear state. The issue is what happens next, because response had to come, and then it is up to India to further escalate it. India is already saying that we don't want to escalate. It's like going and giving somebody a punch and then say, sorry, we don't want to escalate. No, the punch back is going to come, because that will also teach India a lesson that you cannot really attack any sovereign nation the way it did, no matter what pretext is, without any proper process of trying to find evidence. Well, with that, we say thank you very, very much to both of you. You've been wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And so, dear audience, I hope that you enjoyed this conversation. Due to technical reasons, there is an internet outage in our studios. We could not have two of our premier guests, one from America and the other from the United Kingdom, to take part in this discussion. However, from our studios, we just simply say that this aggression by the India was extremely uncalled for. It was extremely unbecoming of a nuclear power or economic powerhouse, so to say, because it was both reckless, it was not needed, where these two countries, so one of the most poor countries in the world, both India and Pakistan are, and they are part of the same geography. So rather than they coming close, they have chosen this pathway. India had to admit that they have made a huge mistake, for which the brave Pakistani army will teach them a lesson which will go in the annals of history. And I hope it, after Pakistani response, it does not escalate any further, and the balance of power between India and Pakistan restores, because Pakistan is made up of millions and millions of very pure and very God-fearing people who want peace, unfortunately, but then if they have, unfortunately, if they are pushed to the brink, then they will go fighting and die till the last bullet, as they say. And that would be a disaster, not only for India and Pakistan, for the world. And I hope that the peace will return between these two countries. So until our next program, I say thank you very, very much for watching it. And I hope that you will continue to supporting us by liking and subscribing our channel. And until my next program, goodbye from our London studio.